All right, folks, we're canning peaches tonight. One of the things you want to make sure of is that your peaches are a little soft. Typically, when you buy fresh peaches, they're a little hard, and that makes them hard to peel. And I'll show you how to peel peaches. But if you buy them and they are a little hard, just leave them in the basket. So I've left these in the basket for about 2 days, and they're all great now. Actually, it's hard for me not just to eat these. But when they get a little soft, it's a whole lot easier to peel them. Easiest way to peel peaches, if you've ever peeled tomatoes, then you'll kind of know. All you do is you'll take your peaches, and I've got a boiling water pot over here. So I'll just take them and put them in the boiling water for, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute. It kind of just depends. And then I've already got some here that I've done. And so what I'll do is once I take them out of the water bath, I'll put them here in the sink. And I've got ice in this sink to kind of stop that blanching from happening. And then I'll just take my knife and kind of run around all the way down to the pit. And that'll let you pretty easily just peel these skins right off. And again, if your peaches are, if they're not ripe, then when you go to peel this, they won't peel off that easily, and you'll take a lot of the peach with you. And then the other thing that I always kind of have to relearn every year is to separate. I mean, these peaches are slimy. They're going to slip out of your hands. It's hard to get them apart when they're like this. Also, these are freestone peaches. Don't try to do, I mean, you can try with clingstone, but I wouldn't. They're a whole lot harder to cut, I think, but to each their own. But what I do is where I've scored it, I'll just take my knife and kind of twist it a little bit. And then that usually will just kind of pop a segment out there. And then I put that little segment into another pot another pot that or a bowl that I've got over here. And in this bowl, you can see it a little bit. In this bowl, I've got water, but I also put a little bit of vinegar in there because one of the things that will happen to peaches is once you peel them, if you leave them just exposed in the air, they will turn brown. That's an enzymatic reaction. The way to stop enzymatic reactions is through temperature. You can increase the temperature so much that you denature the enzyme, or you can control it through pH. So in this pot of water, all I do is I'll add a little white vinegar to it. That'll drop the pH. For this particular enzyme, if you drop the pH to about 4 or 5, you can halt the browning, but it will come back if the pH comes back up. If you drop it to 3 or lower, then the browning will never come back. So that's what I do. Put a little, I just eyeball it, but I put enough. Your water's not buffered, so when you put the vinegar in there, it's going to drop the pH pretty drastically. And the peaches themselves, once you start to add them, they'll contribute to that acidity too. But that's all I do for the first little bit. I'll just peel these. I'll cut them up. And also how you cut them up, that however you want to. Some people like their peaches in maybe quarters, or some people like them sliced up a little bit more. Some people like their peaches in halves. It doesn't really matter how you want to slice yours. Honestly, I will do mine oftentimes in quarters, and then sometimes I'll just go back and cut them up a little smaller. Just kind of depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. How much cutting do I want to do? Right. And so then the other thing I've got before I do a little bit of a edit here is in this pot, I have my light syrup. Now there's a bunch of different recipes for a light syrup or a syrup in general. This is a great book, The Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. And they give recipes for an ultralight, an extra light, a light, a medium, a heavy, a corn syrup, and a honey. I typically lean toward extra light or light, kind of depending. For instance, in here it says the light is 2¼ cups of sugar and 5¼ cups of water. I typically will do like 4 cups of sugar to about 12 cups of water. So that puts me, kind of in the vicinity there. So that's all I'll do for right now. I'll blanch the peaches, I'll peel them, I'll cut them up, I'll put them in my water here, and then I'll show you the next process when I get to that point. All right, so now I've got a pot full, or I keep calling it a pot, a bowl full. I'll show you that in the sink there, of peach slices. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to transfer these, use a little, and transfer these, let most of the liquid drain off. And then in kind of small batches, I'm just going to transfer them into my light syrup that I have over here that's heating up. And so the reason I'm going to do it in small batches is because if you put a bunch in at one time, then they kind of don't heat through consistently. And so I'll just put these in. And again, I don't want to get some of the liquid in there because, again, it's got a little bit of vinegar in it, and so that might add a little bit to the tartness, the sourness that you get. So I'm just going to add those a little bit at a time, and while I'm doing that, I'll also continue to, we've got a few more peaches. I'm going to save some for eating. But I'll bring this up to a boil, and I'll boil these for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes maybe. Really, one of the purposes of doing that, and I always hot pack, whether it's green beans or tomatoes or whatever. If there's an option to hot pack, I always do. The reason is because these peaches, they have air inside them. And so if you don't hot pack, if you just put them in your jars, when you go to heat them up in the canner, it's going to release some of that air that's trapped inside the peach. And that's going to cause problems with your headspace. Now, there are ways around that, but the easiest way around that is boil them first. That'll boil a lot of the air that's in the peaches out of them. That's where a lot of that foam comes from. So boil them first. Then when you hot pack them and bring the liquid up, you don't have near the issue of, causing issues with your headspace. So I'll continue to do that. I'll put peaches in, bring them up to a boil, continue to peel a little bit more, and then I'll show you jarring them up. Something else I'll show you while the peaches are heating up is with the jar lids, all I do is I'll take them and put them in another bowl with some hot soapy water, and kind of, use a rag to just wash these off. Previously, people would boil these, and you don't have to do that anymore. So if you read the directions from ball canning, you don't have to boil. And you probably shouldn't. If you boil them too much, you can actually damage the gaskets in here. And so you probably shouldn't boil them. So I'll just have them in some hot soapy water. I'll wash those and then rinse those off. And then we'll talk about jarring them up. All right, I prepared my jars. My peaches are nice and hot. And a lot of the air is boiled out of them. One of the things I do while I'm waiting on this to happen is when you're canning, I don't care what it is, there's always a time where there's downtime, right? So I try to use that time to clean up as I'm going. That way I don't have just a ton of stuff to do after I get these in the canner. So yeah, these are nice and hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ladle those in. And again, I use just my little wire scoop here. And I'll try to, drain out, but you don't have to drain out much because you're going to be putting that liquid in there anyway. And so typically you want to fill these to about a 1/2 inch to the top. And sometimes I'll go a little less because, I might not necessarily eat or want to eat that many peaches at one go. Right there is a good example of something you should be careful of. I tried to put too many in at a time, and what can happen sometimes is the air tries to come out, and if your face is over it, you're going to have hot liquid in your face, and that's not a good time. And so the things I do with these, like certainly in the winter, I'll open up a couple pints of these and make some peach cobbler or just eat them. Sometimes I'll just take them to work and eat them that way, just like you would, if you're going to the store and buying. I've had people tell me that too, like, why are you doing that? You could just go to the store and buy some. You could, but I tell you one of the reasons I do this, it's tradition. While I'm doing this, I can hear my grandmother's voice. I can hear my stepfather. I can hear my grandfather. And I generally just think these taste better. I'm not one to kind of get off on the whole preserve this and process that. What I'm doing right here is processing. I'm processing these peaches. So if you're against processed food, then you're kind of not gonna be doing this. Maybe you would say you're against ultra processed, which to each their own. Do you? Honestly, too, I just like the pride of. I'll use these sometimes as gifts. I make pickles and all sorts of stuff. I'll can soup, especially in the winter when I make. Since it's just me, I'll make a big crock pot of soup and then can it. And again, that's something else I could just easily take to work, or when I come home in the afternoon, I don't want to slave over something. I just open up a couple pints of soup that I made. Now, this has worked out perfectly because there's no more peaches left in there, and that almost never happens. One of the things I will do, though, is I'll probably take a fork and maybe even some of these out. So, like, maybe move one from here to here and just make some of them not so full. And now what we want to do is we want to kind of ladle, or however you want to do it, some of your syrup into your jars. And so typically I'll just use a measuring cup. And so I'll just get on in here and get some of the syrup. Just ladle it in. Again, you're going for about a half inch is what you want. And if you get too much, you can just take a spoon and spoon it out. Now, one of the things you have to be careful of with peaches is that they do tend to trap a little air depending on how you put them in. And so with peaches, you definitely want to get something maybe something plastic. It doesn't really matter what it is. And just go around the edges and make sure that you get the air out. And then if the liquid falls down, you can just add a little bit more. Like that one. That one. Well, we'll just see what happens. See a big bubble come up there. And some of these, I might need to take some out. Like I feel like I need to take one out of here. Get that a little lower, and maybe one out of here. I think the rest of those look okay. Might need to add a little more syrup to that one though. All right. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you want to clean your jar lids. So again, I just go get me some warm water on a paper towel. Again, I keep seeing some of these that might need a little more liquid. This is one of those things, kind of like my woodworking. I keep looking at it and see other stuff I need to do to it. But those are probably okay. You're going to have syrup or peaches or whatever around these jar lids. And so you just want to take a little rag with or a paper towel with some water and just kind of clean those off. Because you don't want anything on there that's going to prevent your lid from sealing. Some people will tell you that you need to do this with vinegar. You don't. They think that the vinegar is helping prevent, maybe some microbial growth or whatever. But honestly, that's what you're processing these things for. If you're concerned with microbial growth after you process, then you didn't process correctly. Okay? So then we'll just take these clean lids. They'll go right on. And you're going to take your band. This is one of the most important things. When you put your bands on, just put them on, like I just spin them like that. I'm not putting any pressure on that. And then just a slight little, and that's it. But you don't want to really wrench these down, because if you do, your lids are going to buckle in the canner. And if they buckle, you might as well just put those in the refrigerator, because they're not going to seal correctly. All right, so I'll get all the bands on these, and then I'll take you over to my pressure cooker and show you how I cheat just a little bit. All right, so here it is. Here's how I cheat. I use the Presto digital pressure canner to do most of my canning. You can see that it's away from the oven or stove. It's just a great product. And honestly, I'm getting ready to get the bigger one too, so I can do more quart jars. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to go get the jars that I filled. And I'm just going to start loading them in to the cooker. And you kind of do need one of these jar picker-uppers. I don't know that's what I call it, because the jars you're moving are going to be hot. And as I say that, I'm picking one up with my hands. But when you water bath, one of the things you want to make sure of is that the water is over top of your jars. That's another good reason to use. Right, and so you see it kind of is there, but that's not enough. It needs to be, they usually say about an inch over. So I'm going to get some nice hot water here and add some more to those jars, or to that cooker. So I definitely want it covering all those by a good amount. Right, and so now they're all covered. I can put my lid on. And then all I got to do is, got the lid on. Oops, make sure I got it. Lock it down. Tell it to go. And it's going to start the water bath. And so when those are done, I'll take them out, let them cool down, take the bands off, put them on the shelf, and have them this winter.